Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sounds from the Studio, brought to you by Contemporary Craft. Contemporary Craft fosters the use of traditional craft materials such as ceramic, fiber, glass, metal, and wood to make art. Our community honors the history and heritage of craft while showcasing modern, exploratory work.
And since our organization is located in Pittsburgh, PA, we decided to bring some of the stories of our exhibiting and studio artists to a broader audience by way of this podcast. I'm Rachel, the Executive Director at Contemporary Craft.
And I'm Camila, a podcaster and art enthusiast. We are your hosts for this journey, and there are many ways to keep up with us. You can go to the Facebook page and like it, Contemporary Craft, on Twitter at SCCPGH, Instagram at SCCPGH, or just go to contemporarycraft.org.
Hey everybody, next up at Contemporary Craft is Hereafter. It is going to be an exhibition of 13 regional artists that are embracing the depths of human emotion, exploring profound themes of grieving, mourning, and the celebration of life. The opening reception will be on May 13th, and the exhibition will run through August 24th. We expect it to be a poignant moment in our gallery and community, and we invite you to join us. So please take a look at our website for more information and opportunities to engage.
Today, we are talking to Alisha Wormsley, who is known for her work, There Are Black People in the Future, and was awarded a recent Guggenheim Fellowship. So there's a lot to talk about today. To say it's an honor is an understatement. Welcome, Alisha. I'm so happy to see you today.
Hey. It's like my radio voice. Welcome,
everybody. Hey, we're talking to Alisha Wormsley.
Right.
Yeah, I totally second Camila. It is an honor, and I was trying to figure out where do we even start a conversation, because we've been kind of trying to weave this relationship with you through Contemporary Craft for a minute, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that our relationship maybe started in like 2022, whenever we were doing the Follow the Thread. It was you, Barbara, and Tina at our BNY gallery. So if that's right, maybe we can start there. Because for me, like the connection of that work, or why we kind of tried to put the three of you together, was this idea about like a narrative that comes through quilting, tapestry, etc. So can you talk about that work?
Yeah. It's actually like right here next to me, because it's going to North Carolina. Those same three quilt panels. I actually have been like sewing and quilting my whole life. Like my mom taught me how to sew when I was really little. It's like one of the first things I remember, but I actually didn't use it in my art practice until the pandemic. And maybe like a little before the pandemic, like 2019. When the pandemic happened? 2020?
2020, yeah.
When did that start? So like a little before, I had been doing these installations where I printed like lots of my film stills, right? So I feel like one of my main mediums is film. And so I had or video maybe. And I had been like taking all of these images from my film stills and printing them kind of like wallpaper, like almost like film reels.
Oh, nice.
In lines, and like filling, like on this like vinyl wallpaper, and then putting it on, covering walls like for install. And they would just take that down and be like, oh, and it's like cost so much money to print, and it's like, and they're like, oh, they just roll it up, and and I'm like, they're like, what do you want us to do with this? I was like, I'll take it. Like I can't even throw like cans away.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's such a messed up thing to think about. It's like, oh, I put so much. Okay, you're just gonna roll that up.
What would you do with it?
Put it in storage somewhere. Okay,
like they would like recycle it or something. I don't know, but I was like, I'll take it. So I had like rolls, and you can use it, like reuse it once or twice, but then the sticky comes off, and it's not the quality. It doesn't look as good, And so I was like, I gotta do something with this. Like, I can't, so I just started, like, was like soaking it in water and like doing all that stuff. And then I was like, oh, it kind of was like fabric. Like, the image stays pretty good. It feels like fabric. Maybe I could, take this into another space and start sewing it onto things. And then I just started, I also had all of this like fabric that I brought back from West Africa.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't doing anything with that fabric. And I was like, because I'm like a material hoarder. Like, no one can see the room that I'm in right now. That's supposed to be my dining room. It is filled with so many things. Like, and every time I start a new craft, especially because, okay, so anyway, quilting. So I just started making these quilt panels, like I'm telling these stories. So in my films are like these sort of like, they're expansive. Like, I'm playing around with time. I'm playing around with like stereotypical African-American imagery. I'm playing around with like the way that we were taught to see through film, right? Like, we're conditioned to see like, especially anti-blackness, like we're conditioned to have a certain amount of anti-blackness with film, even if you are black. Like, that is a part of the conditioning that program. And so I was making these experimental films, like that's what and it's mostly black women, because I'm really into rematriation and matriarchy. And so so I took these quilts and I was like, oh, what if I started like researching like the history of African-American quilts and looking at like the symbols that were used. And there's like so many different symbols, but, and then there's that like kind of theory that possibly these quilts were used as messages, like to go through the Underground Railroad, to escape slavery, to all of these things, which, there's no like concrete evidence, but it's pretty visible to me, and I love sci-fi and fantasy and like mystery. So it was like all fits together. I'm like, oh, that's perfect, so I started thinking about like quilts as maps and like what that technology is. And so if like quilts are maps and quilts are like a like matriarchal technology, right, then that is like such an advanced technology. And then that brought me, so then I was like reading a text from Mali, from Timbuktu, that was like the Dogon tribe. There they talk about weaving as like the beginning of the universe, right? Like these textiles, the way that you sew, the way that you weave over and under, that is like also connected to all of these creation stories, like African mythology. And Laverne Kemp, who is a very amazing weaver in Pittsburgh, is also was like telling me about that, and I started thinking about weaving also as this like ancient technology, right? Like this like advanced technology, right? That was started by Black women in Africa, and what that is like to be this like most advanced technology, and thinking about like, and then like patriarchy calling craft primitive, and like what that means, and like how that kind of creates itself, and then even the hierarchies in the art world of like craft and like all that stuff. So all those things are like kind of going through my mind, and so that's why I'm like really like into this. Like I'm like learning everything I can learn from like quilting, weaving, glass. I had a residency at the Pittsburgh Glass Center before I had this residency with contemporary crafts. So I'm just like trying to kind of like connect with my ancestors, connect with all of our ancestors, like doing this sort of right past, present, future is all happening at the same time kind of vibe.
Yeah, what I respect about you, aside from your incredible talent, is that the amount of research that you do in like every project, it all turns into like this history lesson, which I love. I love that because it's not just like, oh, I just did this thing. It's like, no, like, let me tell you where this comes from,
receipts.
where the roots, right, exactly. And so has that always been a part of your process? And does that, like, what does that even look like for you? Are you just kind of like stumble upon things here and there, or you have like, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and do it that way?
Totally. I mean, I think, okay, so I have degrees in anthropology. Like, I didn't go to art school. I went to school for anthropology. So I have, you know, like that observation, and I hate anthropology, you know, so don't even, it's like the colonizer's tool of all tools, you know, like I, you know, but well, one, also too, is that my grandfather, like my father died when I was 2 years old in a car accident. My grandfather was like my main male figure, and he read everything. Like, he was like extremely brilliant, made sure that I read everything, you know, like, and listened and like, you know, and understood, you know, like when I went to, I'm from Pittsburgh, right? So in the 90s, you know, there was a lot of gang activity. Lots of people were getting killed, black men, specifically young black men. And so my mom was like, you're going to private school, right? Like, we're not. And so she made me take scholarship tests to every private school in Pittsburgh, like, and I ended up going to Winchester Thurston, and that was the whole thing. But my grandfather didn't speak to her for like 2 months because he didn't believe in private school. He didn't believe in private school education. Wow. He was like, you know, like he like kept me like really like, you go to that school, like I would tell him the things I was taking. I was like, oh, I'm taking this class, Modern African History. And he was like, how many African people are in that school? Like, you're taking this, you know, like who gets this knowledge? Like, let's think about that. And how do they get it? They're paying for it, right? Like, so it's like this whole thing. So I'm constantly, you know, like, so I was like raised in this very pro-black, you know, like he was very, you know, like told me, you know, like why my skin's light, right? Like, I'm not biracial, right?
Right, yeah. So, like, so it wasn't like some,
It wasn't love.
Right,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, he said, you know, he made sure I knew, like, exactly what was going on, right? So, and, like, around capitalism, around all these things. So that is really, like, my like foundation was him like teaching all of us all of these things. So like that is also why, you know, all of the things when I'm like doing my projects, like I'm just you know, trying to think about all the things I've read. I'm just like pulling, like I feel like I'm not really an artist, but I'm more of like an archivist. Right. And even though I'm adding my own things to this archive, right, like I'm building this archive, like with things that I make, it's still informed by all the things that I learn. Right. And observe.
Once you have left this earth, this plane, what would you like the legacy to be that you leave? And aside from, you know, all the stuff that's in your dining room right now,
right. I mean, you know, when I'm dead, I'm dead. I don't really. You know, like that's one thing I can say. I don't have like a legacy. Like I'm not a colonizer. I don't give a fuck. Like, sorry, I didn't just dropped the F-bomb.
It's totally fine. It's okay.
Like I actually like am not. You know, I feel I'm proud of the things I've done. Right. Like I'm proud of like the questions I've asked, like we were talking about our kids, like, right. You want them to ask questions. I'm glad that I asked questions about like, you know, like about anti-blackness, like what, you know, like I'm glad I asked questions about like patriarchy and like how, you know, like the complete oppression of women and mother, right, as a being and existing. And I'm glad I asked those questions, and I'm glad that I push and like try to create space to reflect on, to think about abundance, right, and dreaming, and like what, you know, and like what could be, and like how do we break down these structures and break down, you know, and like all those things. Like I'm glad I do that, but I'm not really into like legacy. Like I don't really care about that, you know.
So
who am I gonna know when I'm dead, you know?
So I appreciate, Alicia, you're talking about like all the things you're like doing, learning, adding to your practice. So like what are you doing at Contemporary Craft?
Like all my dreams are being given to me at Contemporary Craft. So I took every weaving class workshop with the infamous Jamie Boyle, and that was like has been amazing. Through my residency, Contemporary Craft got me a really gigantic loom, which is right there, and
wow.
I have been so you know I'm never gonna not make films. Like that's like my main medium of telling stories, but I really love how craft and film kind of can work together, and I've been trying to like as two technologies, right? Mm-hmm. Like to like how can they intersect, and like and I'm doing like really simple things like projecting into glass, and you know I started doing really simple things like when I had my residency at Glass Center, was projecting into glass, making these kind of glass figures, printing film stills on them, like doing that kind of interaction, and I'm kind of carrying that over into Contemporary Craft. I'm really kind of had been focused on besides learning as much as I can learn, right? Like and doing and just fun stuff too, like needle felting. Like I don't really see myself like, you know, like it's almost like a gift to me, right? Like not all of the things I'm learning at Contemporary Craft have to go in my practice. Right, like it's just like for me. And then but I am like the weaving, like I have been, I was working on a film where I filmed during the pandemic. I filmed my 8-year-old, then 4, every day outside, okay, and on our walks. And we were living in Morningside at the time, and like Morningside is like mostly senior citizens. I don't know if you guys know, but there's like
I used to live in Morningside.
Yeah.
And so nobody was outside. Like you know, they're not going outside in the pandemic. So it was like I felt like it was safe to take walks every day because nobody was outside. And it really looked like an apocalypse because nobody was outside. No cars driving by, very rarely. You know, all you'd hear is airplanes flying overhead.
Yeah.
You know, so we're walking and I, you know, so this was like kind of a practice also because Shepard had just started going to school when the pandemic happened. And then, you know, like
and then just got pulled out.
So we had just started doing our own things, you know?
Yeah, like, like Kaj was turned 1. Like right there, like the month after pandemic. Like I had all these like dreams and plans. Like I was like, hey, what, your first birthday? Her first birthday was on Zoom, and it was like, yeah.
So it's like a very different. You're just like, I'm like, here we are together again all the time. So just like walking, and I made this. So I'm working on this film, and it took me a while to like even want to work on it because it was like felt so traumatic.
I bet. Yeah.
But I knew I wanted to like weave these. I wanted to weave screens to project the film on, and I used like the pattern that it's woven in is the marks on the wall that of his height. You know, you know how you like mark there.
Yeah.
So like I change kind of the weave. Every level of like that wall, that measurement wall. Yeah. And like kind of created and then like added a few things, like things he collected, I added into and projected the film on those tapestries. And then another project that I'm working on now, which is like crazy, is I'm like kind of crafting this set, like I'm calling it an altar. But it's really just like a 16 by 20 foot tent. And I am like quilting and weaving all of the pieces, the panels of the tent, and weaving the rugs that people sit on, and sewing the pillows, and like all, and like kind of building this whole sort of mobile set that can be taken down and put back up in different places. And I'm going to go to different places around the country, and Black women are gonna perform these survival tutorials inside of the tent.
Interesting. What do you mean by survival tutorials?
Like, how do you survive?
Just anything. Just any. Okay.
It could be anything. It's really open.
Because immediately my mind went to like machete training.
There you go. I like that. Yes. Hey,
Camille was the host one.
Right. You know, there's I'm trying to get Miss Betty Lane to be the first person to do it. You know, the tent should be pretty much done in June. I'm working towards that. Not done. It'll never be done. It's always going to be added onto, and like things will be created that will go into the space, but done enough to start filming.
Right.
And you know, and I you know, just in her like African healing garden, just the way that she connects to, you know, has like really changed what Larmer looks like. Mm-hmm. You know, just by planting things.
Oh, yes, her. Okay, yes.
You know what I'm
now
talking
I know
about.
who you're talking about. Yeah, I love her.
And she's really into water. And Miss Mary, who lives like a block away from her, is like obsessed with water, and like became like the rainwater representative of America. So I'm thinking about them like as like these, but I have a bunch, you know, I'm going to New Orleans. And one of my like spiritual mentors, Mama Keisha Harris, she is a reproductive rights, what is that? Reproductive rights activist, but like a director of like, you know, like a real, like that's her job. I don't know what to say about that, but she's also like is like a hood witch, like a self-proclaimed hood witch. She's gonna do some reproductive, some like stuff in the tent. I'm going to hood witch.
I like that.
I am going to now my mind's blinking like what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. I'm going to Memphis.
How do you keep it all straight?
And I know it's like so much. Then I'm taking like this little like south tour from it's like here, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, Florida, Galveston. Wow. That's one set of filming that's going to happen. And then I'm going to Detroit, Syracuse, and one other place that I can't think of. And then I'll go west. Mm-hmm. And I'm in Oakland. I'm going to go all the way west, do Oakland at the Women of Black Panther house with the House Full of Black Women. Then I'm going to Vashon Island, which is off of Washington, and it's there's a land there that is stewarded by 2 Black women, and they've been like, they have like a little residency. Jasmine Hearn hooked me up with them, and then Denver also in the sand dunes, because in Colorado they're, you know, they have like the Buffalo Soldiers, like all that. But there was like this band of like Black cow ladies, we'll call them, cow women, who like protected people, like like had
Pam Grier like owns land out there.
Yeah,
she is like, she's like connected to
that history, that safe haven. There was like a safe haven there for Black women. There was like a Black matriarch. So,
is that all this summer?
No. It's going to take me like 2 years to finish this film. It's like you know, it's going to happen in chunks, but it's going to take a long time. It's not like.
So, and like in addition to all
I've been working on this film for like 5 years in my brain, in my mind.
Well, as it happens, mostly like most art projects do run the course of like several years. Right.
Once you
especially film.
You think about, exactly. And then like you get money.
Yeah.
And then that money runs out, and then you just like think about it.
Now I gotta write another grant.
I gotta write another grant. Like, then you get money to work on it again, and then, you know.
So in addition to that, you have something else coming up with August Wilson Center?
Oh yeah, I'm having a solo show there in 2025. But that's probably gonna be a lot of the altar. That's gonna be a lot of this film. And like I'm working on some stuff, some things that are like within this like Black matriarchy, like thinking about my lineage. I'm doing some ancestral quilting. I have like some quilts squares that my grandmother made before she passed away, and so I'm trying to get everyone in my family to work on a square, just like dedicated to one of our ancestors. And then I'm working on some stuff weaving. I also just started doing medals at Contemporary Craft. Talk about
What?
So I switched over from the fiber studio to the metal
Just
studio.
like give it all to me. I need to learn all of it.
I just love it. Like, I really, it's so low pressure for me. Even weaving, I was like, I hope this takes me forever to learn. Like, I have no, that's why I like it. It feels so much slower. Like everything, like I'm really trying, like in this, like 45 this year, and I'm really just trying to slow down. Like what you said about legacy, like I was like, I think I've done enough. Even like,
oh yeah, like it's already set.
My living, like I'm good. Like, okay, ancestors are appeased. I can like do whatever I want, right?
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. Like also just like, it's funny you say, I don't care. Like I'll be dead, whatever. But you also have such a connection, and you also and purposefully with your own ancestors and with your own ancestry, and and building and keeping altars, and speaking to your ancestors. So at some point, while you're off in a different plane, in the ancestral plane, somebody's going to be when you're on the side, there's going to be like somebody calling out to you.
Right.
Well, I mean,
honoring
we
you.
haven't even talked about yet Sybil Shrine. I mean, how do you say there's, I hear you, but also like you are moving already. Yes, so much. So, well, let's talk about that. What is Sybil Shrine?
Okay, Sybil Shrine is an arts residency and collective for Black artists who mother. And in the true sense of Black matriarchy, matriarchy isn't about gender, it's about care. And so that's like a big thing that I'm trying to really present. Like if we have a woman president, we don't have a matriarchy.
Right.
We have a patriarchy led by a woman.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So let's just like really keep it real, to really like think about like what that is. Like I'm trying to really think about care, right? Like what are models of care? Like how can we like destroy these patriarchal models and that are more about control, and really think about like how we can like really care for one another. And so Sybil Shrine really also came out of there, Black people in the future, and me becoming a mother. I think those are like they're Black people in the future. I got that support to do residencies in the community to offer 11 mini grants to artists and activists in Pittsburgh around the billboard being taken down. There are Black people in the future billboard being taken down. And most of the women femmes who did that project, got that grant, did things around motherhood. So I was like, okay, and I have been thinking about it, and just, and just like thinking about like how, my whole career before I had Shepherd was residencies.
Right.
Like project-based work, like my practice is really, about community and engagement. So like I have to travel to different communities and engage, like that is, and like that's where I get inspiration. That's how and so when I had Shepherd, I had 3 residencies lined up for the next 2 years, and they were all like, oh, I guess you're not coming.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm not,
have baby, we'll travel.
Right.
I don't understand.
I was like, if you give me an apartment, like,
Right.
I'm gonna live in an apartment with my kid. Like, what's like, that's like the. So it's like, but there's so many complexities, you know. It's not just that simple. It's not, you know, like, but which I understand, but also it's just like, okay, well, and we know that these models, like, we know these models aren't made for us, right? Like, this is not like a, you know, so it's like, but the more work I do, you know, and then also too, Sybil Shrine is like, you know, one of a kind. Like, I want it to be like where there's billions. Like, this is not, I don't, you know, I don't really take a lot of ownership over Sybil Shrine because everyone is like, the Sybil's make Sybil Shrine. This is just like, you know, like we just like, I just put a team together to write grants, you know, and facilitate this. Like, this is missing. Like, I can't go, you know, I can't do this. And we know from like other situations, like even when I went to grad school, so I have an MFA, I have a master's in anthropology, but, you know, after I shepherd and I knew I couldn't go to residencies, I was like, oh snap, how am I going to make money? And I better do something. So I went to grad school for art so that I could teach. And I was at Bard, and I went to Bard because it's a program, like, it's all year, but you go in the summer and it's like hardcore for 8 weeks. Wow. And you can bring your family. Now they say you can bring your family, right? But you can't really bring your family. Most of the people who had small children were men. And they had moms with them. Right. They had their partners who came with, you know, like, and so that, even just seeing that, like, I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, and I'm like still nursing. Shepard was 9 months when I started that program, and I'm like running across campus to nurse him and like going back and like, and they had like screenings, like I was in the film department, so we had screenings at like 8:00 at night, like things like that. Like, you can't, you know, and I was like, you better just give me a link to that because I'm not coming like that, you know. So even just those things, so I'm like seeing this, right? And then I come back and I'm doing their Black People in the Future residency, and I'm seeing other moms, and we start talking, like we're just all talking, and I'm like, you know what, we have to like make some residencies that actually fit. Because one thing I do know about residencies is that most residencies don't really understand what it is to be a Black person and to go to a random city or a random town or like in the middle of nowhere and be the only Black person in that area, and like what that safety and like all those things, like residents don't think about that. I already, you know, pushed through all of that, but then it's like, on top of it, of like having a child, you know, having a family also, like, how are you going to go to these spaces? And like lots of residencies just aren't set up for that because they are made for men, you know? So it's like they're historic, and they have, and and I get it, or they're made for people who, you know, and it's harder to create situations. It's so much more cost to be able to support a family instead of just one artist. There's a lot of things. I get it. Like, I'm not, but I think like, but that also is connected to how the structure of this capitalist society, right? Yeah. So it's a mirror. So we, you know, so that's the thing. Like, if I'm talking about rematriation, I'm talking about matriarchy, then this is like one way of kind of working towards that. Like, okay, so what we can do, and it's a cool, I mean, we kind of started Sybil Shrine wanting to make this residency, just make a residency. Like, we were gonna fix up, Jessica Gaynell Moss is my partner in this endeavor, and the administrative director of Sybil Shrine, and she's brilliant. She has an MFA and a law degree, and she, you know, worked for Theaster Gates in Chicago, and she started her own residency in North Carolina called The Roll Up. And so she is, you know, a co-director of Sybil Shrine with me, and we were going to fix up her family has property in the Hill District. We were going to fix it up. We were going to make it so like a Pittsburgh family could just, you know, like the kids can still go to school, right? Like you have a place, you can leave your house and not disrupt your life, but like be in a different environment and just like have care, right? Like that was like our thing in the beginning, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So we did not do that. So then we started like a home residency, right? We started the network, which you were a part of, and we had like this brilliant cohort of 30 moms, and it was amazing. And then
I tell you, like I lived for those.
It was amazing.
Those meetings that we were, because that was like I know it sucks that the pandemic happened like right then and we went on lockdown like at the beginning of the stages, but I tell you, it was there. It was very fortuitous that it was there because it was a wonderful lifeline for me as like relatively new mom and artist, you know, and just dealing with all this stuff that was going on in the world.
Right. So we had the network and we paid everyone to join and we paid them to lead a workshop, and, you know, we just like built community. And then we had another cohort of 30 moms, and then, you know, now we have like 150 moms from all over the country. We have a couple out of the country moms. We and then we started like having partnerships, right? Like really working on partnerships, which is like really the best thing for us because we don't have a space. We don't have, you know, like those things. And I don't think, you know, if we did that, we would have to raise even more, but we'd have to raise so much money to manage, right? But what we can do is we can like help, we can support residencies, right? Like we can make partnerships like with Contemporary Craft, which is amazing, and they already have their residency in plan, but we can make sure that our demographic can be supported, right, on top of this amazing opportunity to work and be a part of Contemporary Craft community and, to, you know, use all the resources that they have. But they also can, you know, we can cover like bringing family, doing that. That's just one example, but that's what we've been doing with all of these other organizations, is partnering with them. And we have a partnership with the Atlantic Center for the Arts in Florida. We have partnerships with a bunch of places.
You know, candidly, I appreciate everything that you just said, because, you know, we just honestly we have our regional residency, which has been going on for a couple of years, and it's people that are like pretty much hyper local. They can come in, they can use the studios, and then they aren't staying with us. And then we have what we call like our national residency, just for lack of better terminology, because it's the program where people come and actually stay here and stay with us. And, you know, exciting news, rad. Like we just bought a house, like literally like 2 weeks ago. Like we just bought a house. That's just happening. But you know, like we're just figuring it out. And, you know, that's part of what, you know, we've been talking about with this Sybil Shrine kind of partnership. Like we aren't yet set up for that, but it's a challenge that, you know, we got to figure it out, because it has to be, if we're going to say it's an accessible program, like, you know, you're making a good point. Like my wife is about to do a residency somewhere, you know, I'm going to keep our daughter, like,
right.
She's usually the primary caregiver. So like, there's a lot in there that you're talking about that we don't, oftentimes as organizations, we don't stop and think and address. So like, thank you. Like you're basically saying like, fix that. We can fix it.
Well, but they're not, like, historically they're not set up that way, right? Like that's not the model. It's not the model. It's not even thought about. Like it's just like because of, you know, who is supported, and like
it's crap, right? I mean, let's be honest. Like, and so, you know, hey, thank you. We're gonna work on that with you,
right? And that's the thing, is like your diversify is so many things. It's just like diversify just means people who have different experiences than you. Mm-hmm. Like it's not about ethnicity or you know, but like it's people who, you know, like thinking about people who are disabled, people who have never been in this country, speak a different language, do this. There's so many differences that we, you know, and so it's like that's a whole job, right? Like making things actually accessible for the person, for all of the diverse existences in this world, right? And that isn't typically how, like, capitalism works.
Right.
You know, so it's not easy. Like, and that's the model that we're like boxed in. So like, how do we kind of think about things and make things like actually accessible for folks?
Right. Well, basically, Alisha, you have been like, you are like one of my role models, and I don't know if I've ever expressed that to you. Like, I worked with you and around you for some years off and on, but damn, like I look at you and I just see this person who is just doing what she wants to do, is successfully doing what she wants to do. You know, success means different things to different people. Right. And, you know, and you have this great relationship with just about everybody that you come into contact with that I know of. Your children are amazing. You have this wonderful disposition, but it's also like you're not to be crossed. Like, it's just like there's so much about you that I admire, and I just wanted to take the time to tell you that, to give you your flowers.
I appreciate you. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. I mean, it's not. Yeah, it doesn't mean that like there's periods of time where I can't leave my house.
Right, no, and I get it. And you know, it happens. Whatever, like right. You know, and even that, and you know, and that you're real about that. It's like I know that I've noticed there's been moments where you have like you disappear for you know a month or so at a time. You come back and it's like you know I had some shit to work out. Like, it's just the way it is.
I was on the struggle bus. Right, they wouldn't let me off.
I kept ringing the bell, but there was
no stop. So which is real.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is.
Yeah, and you know.
Oh.
You know. I mean, thank you so much, honestly, for being with us today.
Thank you.
I feel like we traversed a lot of territory, and there's so much. We could probably talk all day long.
Right. We've been touched like on like half of like most. Most of these,
I mean, also too. I mean, Rachel, I will just say like the fact that I came to you like with like being like, hey, I feel like I want to spend time here. Like I want to do, you know, I have these projects I'm working on. Like, and you just made so much space for me. I mean, you are doing the work. I want to say that like you are doing the work, right? But it's just like the structural things that like, you know, are already placed. Like we already have these structures. Even when I did Sybil Shrine, like we started, right? Our first thing, we had this call, like we did this, you know, and we didn't feel good about it. We didn't, you know, we're learning all the time. Like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, this isn't actually helpful, but it's what everybody else does, you know? So, but I think, you know, but you, like, I feel so, like, I have so much gratitude for the time that I've been able to spend at Contemporary Craft. Like, it's just, like, really opened my practice up so much, and just, like, thank you.
No, I mean, thank you. I feel like there's so much work that there is still left to do, and I wanted to just all be there immediately. But I appreciate what you're saying. You know, it takes you got to start somewhere. So
it takes time.
Thank you for trusting me enough to, you know, jump in with us like this.
Yeah, for sure.
All right,
good.
So now the most important question you'll ever be asked in your entire life, Alisha, how anyone will ever know who you really and truly are. Give us the 3 songs that you feel describe your work.
I know you. I knew you were gonna. I know this is where I've had this question before with you. I know it. I love this. I'm like, oh snap! I should have been ready. I should have been ready.
Ready. Actually, I should have like looked and pulled out what you originally gave me.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I know.
You know what? While you're thinking, I'll give you a second to think, because Camila, I asked the staff to do this, like everybody to send me their songs, and we made like a Contemporary Craft playlist. And it's funny because I was on the Rugged Angel podcast. Well, it's been like 10 years now. I don't even know. And I went back and I was like, are any of my songs the same?
Were they?
I think one of them was, yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
Okay, that's all the pause I can get.
That wasn't long enough.
Okay, we got a second here. I'm actually. So I have the playlist that I made around. I think I used to ask for 5, And I think I have the playlist that I made around the 5 that you chose. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
let me say
I
these
think I
first,
can.
and then
I think
you'll
I
tell
can
me.
figure out the 5. I think I know what the 5 are that you chose. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna say. There's a. I don't even know like the actual title of the song, but it's Hugh Masekela, and South African American in America. And he has a song. Is there anybody out there? It's like it starts with like, is there anybody out there who can hear me? And I'm screaming from way down here below. That's the first lyric of the song.
Oh wow.
I love that song. And I constantly, I'm like, I always kind of feel like I'm taking crazy pills in this world. Like, he's like, is it just me? Like, can anyone hear me? Like, is it,
Yeah.
And I just like that. Cause I have that feeling a lot. I'm like, what else? I mean, mostly right now, all I do is listen to like all the Trolls soundtracks in the car with my kids. So I'm just like, don't say one of those songs, Alicia. How about Minnie Ruperton, Reasons?
Okay.
How about like Sound and Color?
All right.
Alabama.
Yes. All right. That is a great list. And so we will now reflect on back in 2016. Jesus.
Oh my God.
Season 3, episode 65 of the Rugged Angel cast. Alisha Wormsley's top 5 songs were Anita Baker, Body and Soul.
Oh, yeah.
Nina Simone, Baltimore.
Oh, I love that song. I thought about saying that again.
Beyonce, Don't Hurt Yourself.
Uh-huh.
Ani DeFranco, School Night.
Okay, love that song.
And Sound and Color, Alabama Shakes.
All right.
Keeping it real.
I love it.
You know what? That is like the only song. I would play that song over and over again for Shepherd because he would be quiet.
Oh, that's great.
Over and over again.
That's a good one.
So I still have fond memories of
Yes.
it. It gave me peace.
Right. All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Alisha. This has been awesome.
Thank
I
you
love
both.
catching up with you, and
Always.
hopefully one of these days we'll be in the same space, actual physical space, and can have a coffee or something together.
I would love that.
Sounds from the Studio is produced by Rugged Angel Productions for Contemporary Craft. Hosted by Rachel Rierick and Camila Adams with production support by Mandy Wilson. Please subscribe to and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share. Thanks for listening.